You've got to love that StreamYard opener. I just wish it was the Netflix ba-boom we could have had instead, because clearly we're going to be talking about the WWE transfer window is the main thing that's popped up. It's like Sky Sports Premier League football, but a WWE version. And of course, really what they're trying to say is it's the Netflix draft. Who does Netflix want that's on SmackDown or potentially from NXT that they don't have already? Because that is where the major point is going to be going forward. Raw is going to be on Netflix. SmackDown remains on the USA Network, unless you're outside of the United States, like myself and NXT, which means we get all of it on Netflix starting from January, which we're looking forward to indeed. But it's pretty exciting that WWE is bringing a transfer window at this point, because obviously we're mentioning there's going to be a huge change in the WWE landscape, obviously, with Netflix coming in. But at the same time, we're going to start the road to WrestleMania, which of course begins with the Royal Rumble. Obviously, go for Elimination Chamber, then we get to the big show in April. Perhaps Triple H has put together more of that card. We know usually he said last year in October, 80% of it was ready. You would imagine that if a card has been put together and they're going to do some sort of draft in the meantime to move some people over, that perhaps maybe not everyone is currently on the right show of what Triple H is planning for WrestleMania 41. So, NXT, welcome to the show. It's great to have you on board. Your thoughts after Netflix draft?
I mean, I don't have a yellow tie, unfortunately, to wear like it would be if this was the Premier League. I mean, it's exactly, it's like, I mean, don't get me wrong, we obviously get the draft once a year, and I like, it's been loosely played with all year that people turn up on other shows anyway, so yeah, I don't mind it. I mean, the thing I worry about is that obviously by the time this happens, this is going to be January, and I imagine Triple H has got essentially WrestleMania planned out, and you, like you said, it's like, how does he make sure that he gets the right people on the right shows that can still play out the WrestleMania card? So that's going to be an important factor more than anything. But it'll be exciting. It'll be a chance to freshen things up. I mean, the only other thing as well is that obviously there is rumour that SmackDown's going to 3 hours, so they are going to need some more people on that show as well. So, dude, it's an exciting time, especially with like a load of the NXT stars. Jesus, there's a load on there that look to be on the cusp of being called up to main roster. So really exciting, I think, man. Like, it's gonna be, it's just gonna be fun. It's gonna be different. It's that time where we get the possibility of matches that we thought we don't get for a calendar year, and we get them essentially 6 months early at this point.
It feels that way, doesn't it? And that's the thing for me. That's why people that watch this channel have been here long term will know I'm a big draft fan. I get into the hype. I talk about the superstars that should move, the ones that shouldn't move. I get really deep into it. And look, sometimes it disappoints when you come to actually watching the draft play out itself. But as this is a transfer window, it's more of a trade off, I guess, because like we said, Raw, SmackDown, NXT, all eligible involved in this. So we probably will get some sort of. So let's take an example where we've seen NXT Deadline take place, and Ethan Page feels very lost. He doesn't know how to get back the NXT Championship, especially after losing the Iron Survivor Challenge. Well, he lost that championship thanks to one CM Punk he was blaming back in the time. Perhaps he ends up on CM Punk's show in a couple of weeks, which will actually then determine him to have a match with CM Punk on the road somewhere to WrestleMania, which actually be a fantastic way to call All Ego up to a main roster. And on the flip side, you can tell myself, well, say for right now, CM Punk's on Monday Night Raw. You can take someone from Monday Night Raw and say, right, we don't really have plans for this superstar right now, but they maybe could do something for us in NXT. And we've seen many people repackage themselves and get that opportunity to go back down and, start again, if you will.
So you see that as well. The one that I heard today was that the Motor City Machine Guns were apparently originally meant to go to NXT, and their spot was actually meant to be for Penta and Rey Fenix. And dude, I mean, this is a way to obviously possibly get Motor City Machine Guns back in NXT to go with the original plan they were thinking. I mean, dude, don't forget there is also free agents, because I presume this happens in January. You could be looking at the likes of Jordan Grace coming in, Jonathan Gresham, Josh Alexander. There's loads of free agents out there that could possibly be involved in this draft as well. So, I mean, dude, if Jordan Grace doesn't end up on the main roster in this draft, someone's dropped the ball somewhere.
You would agree with that one. I wouldn't be surprised if she debuted in the Rumble again, and then all of a sudden it's like this time she's here to stay. And it would be a nice bit of masterstroke as well. And you mentioned about free agents, by the way, and people that are not involved. I mean, someone that's going to be having his retirement year is John Cena. Is he going to be designated to one show? Has one GM done a masterstroke and made sure that the greatest of all time, according to Michael Cole, when you hear from WWE and the ring announcements, that John Cena will be exclusive to Netflix, let's say?
I mean, I very much doubt it. I got a feeling that he'll end up like how Brock Lesnar and Omos will be after the recent draft, and they'll be undrafted because it's his final year. I don't see a reason as to why they would draft him to any particular show. I mean, the only other thing as well is you've got the Rumble, and obviously the Rumble is an excuse for a last-minute draft change, or if you want to still play off a storyline that could be affected by the draft. So that's the other thing as well. But no, I would say with John Cena, I imagine he'll go undrafted and he can just pop up as and when he likes.
It'd be interesting to see how it'll go down. Just quickly, while we're on the topic of John Cena, I'm just going to flip it away from this conversation quickly. If I can ask you 3 matches you want to see John Cena have in his retirement tour, who would they be?
Bron Breakker, CM Punk, and Randy Orton.
Fantastic. 2 out of 3, I would actually agree with you with. Randy Orton and also Bron Breakker 2, I really want to see. It's just with the history, the legacy of Randy Orton that they've had previously. Obviously, Bron Breakker, I think, is the, that future monster, current Intercontinental Champion as well. The one title Cena hasn't held. For me, I think one of the matches I would personally really want to see, I think, would be Carmelo Hayes. I think that Carmelo Hayes also being from Boston. I think they have the Celtics sort of thing going on. And I just think that Carmelo Hayes is a great in-ring talent as well, a bright future. A first-round draft pick on the last draft for SmackDown. I think it'd be interesting to have a match with him and John Cena. I think that'd be quite fun to watch.
It does sound... Oh, it probably will end up happening because obviously it just seems like one of the things that probably will happen. But Heath Slater this week and dropping the bomb that he'd like to see the Nexus return. Dude, there's a reason to go visit CM Punk John Cena again. And I'm like, why not, man? Have, CM Punk bring back the Nexus, bring Wade back into the fold, bring back the old crew. Could be some exciting stuff. And like I said, the reason I say Punk is that obviously everything that went down with, oh, wait a minute, I've actually got it here, this moment right here, where, CM Punk actually walks out the building, beating John Cena, kissing Vince McMahon goodbye. There's a lot of history there, which is why I'd like to see it revisited one more time.
Certainly indeed. Just a couple of other mentioned names there. Gunther, I would like to see as well, just the chops we're seeing. And obviously Cody Rhodes, just the idea of, the face of that run the play, well, that's AJ Styles, isn't it really? But, John Cena was like the company guy, the top babyface of the company of yesteryear. Cody's the current. I'd like to see how they could make that dynamic work.
Revisit that as well.
There's a lot of things you could do there. But speaking of Cody Rhodes and Gunther, the current world champions of Raw and SmackDown, with this transfer window coming up, could you see a trade between the world champions with Gunther going to SmackDown and seeing Cody Rhodes going to Raw, especially as Raw would be the Netflix show, and you would imagine they would want the top babyface of the company on that brand?
The problem, I think, is how greedy are Netflix, because if you want Cody, then you kind of want Roman as well. And it almost feels insulting to Gunther that if this trade does happen, it's because Netflix don't want him. They want Cody. And I'm like, you can't do that, man. This guy is like the best thing since sliced bread, like longest reigning IC champion, current world heavyweight champion. I don't like his booking particularly at the minute, but I just feel like it almost... I don't really want to say it cuts. I don't know. It don't necessarily cut Gunther's stand. Like, it doesn't cut what he's worth or what that title's worth. But I just think that, I don't know. It's a very touchy subject, and again with Mania so close, I don't know how they're going to do it. And I imagine if you're going to ask me who's changing it, I reckon Cody Rhodes is the number one. He is the face of the company. Netflix are paying all this money. They want the top guy on the top show. So I would safely put my house on Cody Rhodes being the guarantee to move in this transfer window.
It would be a likely one. I think I can see that trade happening, to be perfectly honest. No disrespects to Gunther. I think he can actually play into the character and the storytelling they're trying to do with him right now, because obviously he lost the match to Cody as well. It could be almost a question of Adam Pearce, didn't you want me? Where Nick Aldis would be like, well, I saw something in you in that match. You didn't win on that night, but I believe in you. And it just adds that dynamic as well of Aldis and Pearce. I dream for the match one day, former NWA World Champions head-to-head, but we didn't get it at Survivor Series, damn it. But But at the same time, though, you mentioned Roman Reigns already, and of course, it is Netflix. Could you see? Obviously, we have Bloodline members everywhere now on both shows. Sammy and Jey Uso are on Raw. Roman and Jimmy are on SmackDown. Obviously, we've got Bronson Reed for the new Bloodline on Raw. Obviously, the rest of them on SmackDown. Is there going to be a way that this is somehow you can get everybody under one roof?
If they do, I really think it stacks a lot of talent on one show. Like, if you're going to bang and put them all on Raw, you've got OG Bloodline, New Bloodline, Roman, Cody, all this talent going to Raw, and you're kind of like, well, what's left for SmackDown, really? I mean, look, I don't. If you still look at the rosters, technically, Jey Uso and Sami Zayn are still Raw superstars, so I don't necessarily think it's going to affect them too much because they're still going to have that crossover where we get both of them coming in. I just think it's a case of trying to make a statement more than anything else. But yeah, you got to worry for SmackDown at the minute because Netflix is obviously making a big deal out of Raw. This is the one that they're signing. Like, do you know what I mean? This is the one they're paying all the money for. It is Monday Night Raw that they're paying for. And you expect with the amount of money they're laying out, like I said a minute ago, they want all the big stars. But they have to be careful with what they do with SmackDown because SmackDown could end up just being nothing. And if they want to move it to 3 hours, don't get me wrong, SmackDown's always kind of been the brand that's been on building the stars of tomorrow, whereas Raw was more for the established stars. So it might not necessarily be a bad thing, but it just depends on who they move, really.
I agree with you. There is an element though where you can obviously dangerously look like the end of the 2000s, early 2010s, where Raw was pretty much the show and SmackDown almost felt like, well, this is the B show. But at the same time, SmackDown's always felt like the dare I say a Shane McMahon and line here, but the land of opportunity. It's always been the way of the proving ground to make yourself the face of the company. Obviously, under the Fox era of WWE, they switched it up, and that's when Roman's been there. We've had Cody there, obviously running the ship, but now it seems like it could go back to that. And this is why I kind of feel a Gunther with the SmackDown actually kind of works, because all of a sudden opens the door for someone like an LA Knight who just recently lost the United States Championship, and all of a sudden gives him direction to perhaps maybe move a level up and go towards that main event scene.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, and the fact that like I said, I'm not too keen on how they're booking Gunther at the minute. Whether it's like this dominating champion that all of a sudden has lost his voice and can't talk and is not doing well, I would quite happily move him to SmackDown and give him a new chance. But yeah, you're right. It does give you people, like I said, it gives the LA Knight a chance to go for a world title. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head who else is on there. But then, like you said earlier as well, if they bring someone like Ethan Page onto SmackDown, that for me is a perfect fit. And if you put him in with someone like Gunther, dude, that's a match to really want to see.
Absolutely. One name from NXT I will throw out, and I think he will definitely go to SmackDown, I think, is Trick Williams. I know he's still the current NXT champion, but Obafemi won that Iron Survivor Challenge, and I just feel that match being pushed for New Year's Evil. The timing just seems to fit perfectly there for me to crown a new NXT champion.
The problem I have with it is Obafemi is so over. And you've got Trick Williams, this massive baby face, against Obafemi, who's massively over, even though he's supposed to be a heel. And I'm really worried about how they do it. But dude, I'm on the same with you. I think Obafemi is going to absolutely take that title. That geezer is a complete badass. He is going to be the next NXT champion. And I agree. I think Trick Williams' move to main roster is imminent. I mean, I would keep him away from Carmelo Hayes for the next 12 months. I think if they're going to do it, take Carmelo over to Raw. I believe he's on SmackDown. Take him over to Raw. Keep them two away from each other for the next 12 months.
Will be interesting to see how they will play it out. But yeah, it's going to be fascinating.
What, actually, have you seen? I don't know. Have you seen Deadline at all yet?
I've seen 4 matches out of 5. The only one I've missed is the Women's Iron Survivor Challenge.
I'm going to give some props to someone here because I feel like I've been sleeping on this guy. Tavion Heights. My God, that guy is fantastic. Like, genuinely watching that tag match, and I was like, this guy is like a 6'4" version of Chad Gable. And he was amazing. And I generally was writing my notes down. I was like, that was my OMG for Deadline, by the way, was like, I can't believe I've been sleeping on this guy because he is amazing. And I cannot wait to see what he does going forward.
Got to say that was the 4 matches that I'd seen. That was easily match of the night for me. That tag team match, I thought was fantastic.
Dude, I mean, I really enjoyed it, but I think for me, Nathan Frazier, dude, MVP for that show. The fact that obviously he does the 2 matches, but he saves the men's Iron Survivor Challenge match because for some reason, Javon Evans and Wesley have no in-ring chemistry, and it was all janky and weird. And then Nathan Frazier comes in at like 100 miles an hour and absolutely steals the show, man. I love Nathan Frazier, man. Like, dude, bring back the cruiserweight title just so we can put it on that guy.
Absolutely, yeah. Frazier was fantastic on that show. I've got to say, everything that I saw from him there, like I said, from Iron Survivor to the entrance that they had with Axiom, where he just kind of felt like he was just floating to the ring. I thought
Like
was amazing with them all bandaged up as well. Thought brilliant. I thought they were definitely losing those tag team titles, and the way they played out was just absolutely superb.
Fraxium
So
is fine.
fair
Fraxium
yeah.
is fine.
Yeah, they are fine, and they find a way to survive another day. But I'll tell you what, you mentioned Fraxium. Let's just quickly throw, because NXT are going to probably get gutted again. That's usually what happens in these scenarios when there's a transfer window, a draft, lose a lot of their top stars. So they need some people to come down. And there are some people that I think on the roster that could do with a move to NXT. And I'm going to throw a tag team your direction to return to NXT because they're not doing nothing on the main roster. And I just have a funny feeling that they could provide a good challenge for our current NXT tag team champions. Plus, maybe Sean's booking will maybe actually give them ability to actually finally deliver their musical. I'm talking about the one tag team known as Pretty Deadly.
I as much as I hate it because I really love Pretty Deadly, and when they were called up, they had a spot imminently, and it just almost seems like Triple H doesn't like them. Like Vince loved them, but Triple H, ever since he's taken that creative pen, just won't use them. And dude, yeah, I mean, I want nothing more for these guys to succeed. I mean, my only worry is obviously we've seen certain people go back that haven't really delivered on going back to NXT, and then but I think these two will be fine. They're a tag team, they're a comedy duo that bounce off of each other. But yeah, they really need something, and I hope they turn it around. But yeah, I'm just shocked that they don't get used as much on SmackDown.
Yeah, I feel the same as well. They were for a short time. They were with Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jackson. I thought they had a fantastic role of what they were doing, but since it's kind of faded away, and yeah, you do kind of worry for them at the moment if they don't move in this transfer window because they're not getting used. And to be fair, the musical was even seemingly fading away. And I want to see more of Pretty Deadly. I'm a fan of their work, so yeah, it would be quite cool to see. Is there any names that you would like to see move in this transfer window that we've not mentioned already?
I mean, if Obafemi wasn't going to win that NXT champion at New Year's Eve, or dude, that guy is just money all over. But dude, there's just a plethora of NXT superstars that you can see moving. Lexus King looks like he's getting another repackage. I don't really know, but they're hopefully going to start playing more into do with his father, which is what they should have done when they brought him in initially. So hopefully they do something with him. I'm just trying to think really if there's anyone that's really suffering. Shinsuke Nakamura, hopefully now that they've got the US title on him, he may do something of relevancy, but I don't know, man. Like, he's been sort of in booking limbo for the longest time, and I mean, it's the shock of him obviously winning that title is in itself a massive result, but like, don't get me wrong, the match wasn't anything special. I don't know if it was particularly down to that Vancouver crowd, because I'll be honest, that crowd were horrible. Like, that match suffered from second match syndrome because the crowd were not interested at all, and it was like the shock of Shinsuke winning was probably the highlight of that match. Otherwise, it was a really bog standard match. But I think he's a guy that needs to be moved. He needs something new or original or whatever. He needs something to, you know, I mean, make him a big star again. I mean, the only other one is I hate to say it, but Chad Gable, man, like this time last year, sorry, start of this year, he was on the verge of like world title scene, and he was on the verge of IC title reigns, and ever since he's been made part of this faction, I don't know, man, they're booking like a bit of a job. Like, I was glad to see him get a match on Friday. I won't ruin that for you because you haven't seen SmackDown yet, but I just really hope that they get back to that point where he's on the verge of becoming an IC champion again. Justice for Chad Gable, man.
Absolute justice. Do you know what? I think actually, check out American Made is actually a perfect fit to go to SmackDown. I think that would be one that would work out really well because, like I said, it's just not quite clicking the same as what it did. It real momentum going into the summer, and then after the White Six feud, it just feels like Chad Gable's kind of faded to the sidelines again, which that's not what we want to see. Chad Gable's a superb athlete, and he's had some fantastic matches on Raw as well with the likes of Dragon Lee, Rey Mysterio. So I want to see more of his work, but yeah, like I say on SmackDown, I think there's a gap for a Chad Gable and American Made right now. I feel, especially if Got My Way and Pretty Deadly went back to NXT. That's a heel tag team as well that can come over, and the Creed brothers that can actually feel spotting on that SmackDown tag team division. Yeah, over Nile as well would be fascinating to move over. I'm going to throw the idea of Damian Priest moving over to SmackDown. I actually even think the Judgment Day could move over to SmackDown. If you start getting all the bloodline over on Raw, I just wonder if maybe it's time to actually start splitting up the Judgment Day and moving some of them over to SmackDown. The only one I think of that group I think should definitely stay on Raw is Dirty Dom.
Him and Liv, I think they have to stay together. So Liv has to stay essentially as well, which means Raquel stays. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to split them up, my issue is that I'm kind of done with seeing Priest versus Gunter, which means I'm kind of done with seeing Gunter, Priest, and Finn Balor. So I know obviously Finn Balor's always, like, the story is that he's always going to be there to cost Priest, but if anything, I would move Gunter and Balor over and leave Priest on Raw. Just because in that way we kind of get maybe a new direction for Finn Balor, and we get heel and Finn Balor again, or I don't know, they just do something else with it. I'm just honestly bored of seeing that storyline play out now because it's been, God, feels like it's been about 4 or 5 months of the same story beat, and I'm like, okay, we need to do something new with this, and I think keeping them apart and putting them on different shows is probably the best thing for them.
Absolutely, especially if they're going to blur the lines for the first few months to WrestleMania anyway, probably, where they want to probably continue the Priest and Balor feuds. That feels like this is the direction of where it's going to go. But we'll talk more about that when it comes to our Saturday night main events predictions video, which should be dropping on the channel for you tomorrow. So make sure to keep an eye out for that one here on the channel. Yeah, I mean, I think we've covered this in extently. I think I'll just throw a couple more NXT names out there. I think Roxanne Perez is getting the call up. She's on the thumbnail. I think she'll lose her title on New Year's Eve as well. And I think that's probably her call up then to go to the main roster because she seems ready. I think Cora Jade is ready as well. Obviously, Cora has not been doing as much in NXT since her return. Obviously, she's been the sidekick of Roxanne to begin with, but they could be a good shout for those women's tag team championships, for example, if they were to come up together and be the duo once again, because obviously with Jade Cargill's current injury, those tag team titles you imagine will probably become vacant at some point in the near future if they haven't already. As NXT has mentioned, I haven't seen SmackDown as of yet.
Yeah, and I with Roxanne Perez obviously being champion forever, and then well, obviously because you haven't seen the Women's Iron Survivor match, I won't give away who she's going to be facing the New Year's Evil, but yeah, she's on the verge of it, man. She's been on the verge of it since the last draft, really, and we've essentially just been playing the waiting game for when she loses that title. And again, New Year's Evil could be a really big show in terms of title changes. So this could be one of the best shows of the year in terms of anticipation. So yeah, I'm the same as you, Cora Jade. As long as Cora Jade can stay fit, because I think injuries are her biggest concern at the minute. And plus with Cora Jade, there's always a chance that, you can get AJ Lee back into a WWE ring with Cora Jade, especially if you involve CM Punk in some sort of storyline. I think that'd be cool as hell.
That would be really cool as hell. I think that's something I want to see play on my screen at some point for the foreseeable future. But yeah, I mean, that's our thoughts of perhaps people that could move, should move. We've speculated. Last question I'm going to ask on the topic, because obviously we said we know what the real deal is here. It's the Netflix draft. It's who Netflix want and how WWE can counteract that and giving USA Network still a decent roster for SmackDown. But is that how this transfer window should play out? Or is it better that actually the superstars that are not being used properly to the best of their ability, that those are the ones that should find a place in moving, how the WWE draft would usually work? Which is better?
Ultimately, it should be the stars that are not being used better, but unfortunately, it's not the correct answer. It is the Netflix. Here's the money, now give us what we want. But it should be a case of whoever's not being used. Like you said, for instance, Pretty Deadly not being used on SmackDown, criminal in itself. But it's like I said, the whole point of the draft is to give people a chance and just hope. You never know. Hopefully, if SmackDown gets a third hour, Pretty Deadly might end up staying on SmackDown and we get something more out of them. But again, because you haven't seen SmackDown, I can't really say a lot. But yeah, it's a bit of a crazy one, man, with how that show and that tag team divisions is running. Like they seem to be inundated with heel tag teams, and it's like Motor City Machine Guns, off the top of my head, are kind of the only babyface team. So you do need to do something with that tag team division.
Interesting indeed. I'm looking forward to seeing SmackDown. I'm not going to leave it too long. I've got a day off tomorrow. It's good. I'm looking forward to that. But we'll move on in the meantime. Obviously, from that particular topic now, anyone wants to drop in some comments as well? There are people watching on the live stream that we're doing right now, but everyone's keeping calm at the moment without questions. That's totally fine. If you want to just listen to us talk, we've got a number of topics we want to go through, so we'll go through them and you can happily watch and listen. But if you want to get involved, feel free to do so. In the meantime, we're going to go through a shorter, trimmed version of a Survivor Series review because of the fact that we didn't have time to do one and the actual time Survivor Series happened. So we're going to breeze through one in the next 10 minutes or so. So first of all, your overall thoughts of the show, NXT, Dave?
Not the most memorable one. If your best match on the night isn't a War Games match, I think it's subpar of a Survivor Series. So I thought it was okay in a lot of places, very bad in some places. But like I said, I think if your best match on the card isn't a War Games match with the whole how it is, the build, what it is, I think then the show suffers, unfortunately, from not being the best.
I think the show was fine. I'm going to say fine to good, but obviously I don't think it reached the heights of what I think people wanted it to. Obviously, the match of the night is definitely the IC title match, the triple threat match that happened in the middle of the show, and that went above and beyond expectations. And I think it was really fun because obviously it's a solid victory for Bron Breakker. Shame that Sheamus obviously, I think, picked up an injury during that match, if I'm not mistaken, but obviously carries his story over to. Yeah, there you go. And it carries his story over to another day of wanting to win the IC title, which obviously maybe a WrestleMania, that would be quite a fitting place for it. But another person that really stood out in that match for me was Ludwig Kaiser. It kind of felt like that was his coming out party. Like this, he's here on a premium live event, stood out as well, shined in the same breath, and it just made me feel like he's got a very bright future with this moving forward in WWE, and looking forward to seeing where it goes from there. But yeah, I mean, we'll talk about the women's War Games match because I think that's where a lot of the critique kicks in for me and you, obviously. My main gripes with this match was obviously, yes, Nia's chair shots, they were not good. But I do think there was a bit of a reason that those suffered a little bit. But my main problem with that match, and this is just me as a War Games spectacle, was every time that someone could come to the ring, they would try and look for weapons that were not in place. Someone somewhere in setup has not communicated.
Raquel spends a minute looking for stuff and then doesn't bring anything in at all. What's the point?
It just goes to show that these matches, in my opinion, should not be just spot fests. It should have story drivenness behind it. It doesn't need weapons every time. Yes, weapons are fun, throwing the tables, throwing chairs in there. But clearly, every time one was going to come in, they were going to bring something in with them. And it affected the match every time because Raquel wasn't the only one spending a minute on the floor. Those Nia chair shots happen at a spot where Candice was looking for something, couldn't find it. By the time she got in, and you could just see Nia was like, what do I do in the meantime? Oh, I'm going to hit you with a chair. Oh, they're sitting up. I can't hit them with a head. So everyone had to bow down. It was really awkward. It was a really bad moment. But at the same time, I think it comes down to a bit of production because whoever communicated where those weapons were meant to be or whatever they were meant to do, it feels like things had to be called on the fly because they couldn't get to do the things that they were meant to do.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's not that hard to kick someone in the midsection and hit them on the back with a chair.
Yeah.
And it's almost like Nia's brain just disappeared when it comes to that key factor. But, dude, 10 seconds into the match starting, Bayley and Nia have no chemistry. Like, they're looking at each other like they don't know what they're doing. And then about a minute and a half later, when they're in between the two rings, Bailey pushes Nia into the cameraman, and you can hear Bailey audibly call for elbows. And I'm like, why am I watching this? This match is already just absolute garbage, and then it doesn't get a lot better. Candice LeRae has some good spots in there, apart from the power bomb that unfortunately she doesn't do off the side of the cage. But dude, I think that's just a timing issue with that one. But dude, Io saves this match for me, even though the swanton off the top with the trash can is kind of like a Kofi saving himself in a Rumble moment now, and it's like it doesn't have that initial impact that it did when she first did it, and it's just like you said, you summed it up perfectly at the start. This shouldn't be a spot fest match; it should be story driven, and this is essentially what it was. But Io does save this match for me because it's not great. It's not. I don't know. Like, I'm not trying to be overly critique about it, but it's not good. Like there's some clever moments, like Tiffany hiding the Money in the Bank briefcase inside the trash can, but then she almost stands like she's going to cash in. It's like, how are you even going to do that? That the concept doesn't work when you're in that sort of match. So I don't know how it was supposed to play out, but you're right, man. It was a very spot fest. Even the men's one, I'm going to say, was a very spot fest match. And I just like I said, if you're putting on a pay-per-view where War Games is the main aspect of that show and they're not the best matches, then I think it just ruins the whole show for me.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I can understand that entirely. And obviously, I agree with Io did save the match. I thought Liv was fantastic in character work in that match, obviously being the last one to come in, not wanting to join the match. Then she brings the baseball bat in, obviously. But, she gets to come up and she's the one that's pinned at the end. I did like the Tiffany moment because I do agree with you. How does Money in the Bank work in there? But at the same time, just seeing both Nia and Liv laid out on the floor at one point, it's like, do I turn on my team and try and cash in? I don't know how the result of the match would have worked had she been successful, but obviously it didn't materialize. The trash can thing was fun. Obviously, as a moonsault, it's hella impressive, but at the same time, like you say, it is a trick that we've sort of seen in a different fashion done before, but still mega impressive to see it with the moonsault. But all in all, I just think my other critique, I would have done a slightly different order of people coming. You mentioned about Bailey and Nia being the start. I think Nia should have come in second in the match or third in the match, because the fact is, I get the idea. Sorry?
She should have come in fourth. She's champion. Why should the champion go in first? It doesn't make sense. Like, why you're the top? You're on par with the top women's star. You shouldn't be. Raquel is there to do that powerhouse work. Let Raquel just go in number one. Do you know what I mean? It was silly booking.
And for me, the reason I think why they did it is because it's like the babyfaces had the advantage. So it's kind of like, well, if you're going to be 2-on-1 on someone, can you defeat Nia Jax 2-on-1? It's a harder task to do because she's a women's champion. She feels she's someone that can withstand having the numbers against her, because she's the powerhouse that might as well be 2 against 1 when it's a regular match. So I think that was the idea they were going for, but I think they should have started with Tiffany, because I think Tiffany's just someone that would have worked on edge, or even Candice. They could have done that trick they were going to do as they were going in the cage, and Tiffany's going to start, and then Candice runs past her at the start of the match, and then you can work your way through it, because they're going to go, oh, it's not working because look, Candice isn't getting the way in. Now we're going to send Nia in, and that's where it can count, because it would have helped the start of that match a little bit more, in my opinion. But hey, that's me, I suppose.
Dude, the other thing as well, I just got to bring Rhea, not saying she gets attacked with a baseball bat and she does no selling.
Impressive. We didn't seem like we liked that match as much.
I don't normally critique Rhea Ripley, but if someone hits you with a baseball bat, dude, at least put your arm across your midsection or something. But she just, it's very minimal selling for something as devastating as a baseball bat. And it's like, how am I supposed to believe chair shots and baseball bat shots anymore now when wrestlers are not selling the effect of what they're supposed to be? Do you know what I mean? Like, you sell a chair shot, do you know what I mean? You sell a baseball bat by just standing up and winning the match. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't make sense to me.
No, I totally agree. Star rating for this match?
2.25. I thought, no, sorry, 3. I'll give it a 3 actually, because I think Io saved the match. My Shinsuke was 2.25.
Fair play. Yeah, 3 for me. I can understand why you give that rating for Shin versus Ellen. it just didn't feel. I don't know. I was a bit bored. I just couldn't get into the match either. I don't know. Just something. Maybe it's the
I think it was the
fall down after
crowd.
War Games. Crowd, yeah, didn't help. I understand the commentary did help a little bit with the idea of like, oh, LA Knight dropped the championship, and there was just a couple of moments. It was like, oh, LA Knight's not on his game tonight because Shin is the one that's in his head. I like the presentation of what they've done with Shinsuke Nakamura, but I still feel like he suffers from Dolph Ziggler booking style, like where you've kind of given up on him. So the fact that he won was a massive shock to me, even though the fact that is that if you want to get a new character over it, it's the right thing to do. But it just feels a bit out of left field that Nakamura just returns out of nowhere and instantly wins the US title again.
Yeah, I mean, his presentation was great. I like the new sort of heavy bass-fed version of his song. His cosmetic look that just makes it look like someone's hit him with a shovel, like he's just got a bruised face. So take that for what it is. I mean, yeah, the match for me was bog standard. I gave it a 2.25 just for the shock value that Shinsuke actually won. But the crowd would not. This is what I mean. I think the crowd were the biggest problem with this show because they just seemed to be so disinterested in certain parts. And this match suffered from second match syndrome. You just had a War Games match. And that's what I initially thought it was. And like they say, the crowd are just dead the whole way through it, and they do not care about it. And yeah, and it just suffered, man. And it almost like. I know WWE are quite famous for piping in crowd noises. This show really needed piped in crowd noises because it sucked.
I mean, Vancouver, unfortunately, might have lost their. You know, the guy that always has the sign for like bringing WrestleMania to Vancouver might have blown it on that one. I don't know.
They've got Chamber in March.
I think it's Toronto, isn't it? Isn't it Toronto that's got it?
It might be, yeah, but it's like it's going back to Canada again. It's like, is Canada just kind of bored of WWE pay-per-views? Is that what it is? Like, prime example, did you see the crowd when Jey Uso is doing his entrance? And like a quarter of them are the only ones doing the whole hand motion thing. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like I sat there and my initial note was, what did I put? Let me just read it quickly because I put, is the hype of the hype of Jey Uso finished? Because no one was doing his entrance. And I was like, does this crowd just not care about Jey Uso? Or like, is the momentum worn off? Is he just not a big deal anymore? And that's when I sort of sussed it was the crowd that was the problem with this show.
Absolutely. Well, Sid's asked what our favourite match for Survivor Series was. We both said already that the triple threat match, which we've kind of discussed already, so we don't really need to go into further detail of it. But
4 stars.
4 stars. I don't blame you for that one. I went with 3 3/4. I thought it was a really good match. But we kind of already give a bit of detail on it already. But Gunther versus Priest, you've seen it before, I think was the feeling. It's kind of a rinse and repeat of SummerSlam. The fact that Finn Balor got involved at the end there to help Gunther get the victory over Damian Priest in with that sleeper hold.
Yeah, and it was just the problem was it was inevitable that Balor was going to get involved, and it's kind of like you're bored of the inevitability. So I was like, I gave it a 3 because I thought it was physically impressive because obviously the size, their strength, the physical prowess that these two can put on. They can put on a really good aggressive match, but predictable booking, predictable storyline, predictable outcome. I gave it a 3.
I think that's a fair rating. I'm actually going to share it, actually. I think 3 is good. I was around 3.25. I think 3 is a fair rating. And obviously now building to Gunther versus Balor, and you can imagine they're probably going to get the triple threat probably at the next Saturday night's main event in January, possibly the Royal Rumble. We'll have to wait and see. All depends, I guess, on the transfer window. But yeah, interesting stuff indeed. But yeah, rinse and repeat. And the first time ever, by the way, that a SummerSlam championship match had a rematch at Survivor Series. A little bit of knowledge there, a bit of facts there for you. And obviously the men's War Games match with probably one of the greatest entrances ever in Tama Tonga. The way he was going around the cage, absolutely loved it. And I mean, to be fair, this match was I thought was really good. Unlike the fact of when Tonga Loa was going to try and come out of the cage and Solo stopped him. Same for when CM Punk on the other side did. Roman stopped it. It was the most viral thing of the whole show. Does WWE pivot to Roman Reigns versus CM Punk? Netflix, are you paying for this? But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what will happen with that one. But obviously, the whole storyline of the match, it kind of felt was, can Roman Reigns and CM Punk get on the same page? And when they eventually did, with the thanks to Paul Heyman and obviously CM Punk making the major save for Roman Reigns, saving him on the table spot with the tsunami, which was timed so brilliant, by the way. That's when we led to where we got to the finish, which was really cool because all the other Bloodline members were taken out and it was just Solo left with the other 5 guys. And there was a moment where Roman opened up his arms, almost like he was willing to give forgiveness for Solo Sikoa before the spike came out. And obviously, that's when everyone then decided to do all their finishers on Solo to actually get the victory for the, dare I say, babyface team. Obviously, the super kicks obviously came there from the Usos, Haluva kick from Sammy, go to sleep for a GTS from CM Punk, followed by the spear to get the 1-2-3 on Solo. I thought this was the better of the 2 War Games matches, just had more drama in it. I'm still wasn't, when you think Bloodline versus Bloodline, I still question if it needed CM Punk and Bronson Reed in this cage, but you can already see from the fallout that there's reasons why they've done this. And obviously with Punk and Roman as well, the big tease is there. Punk wanting a favor in the future, which looks to be a WrestleMania main event, dare I say. I still found this entertaining and a good watch.
I actually thought this was worse out of the 2 matches.
Wow.
I personally don't think this match gets remotely entertaining until CM Punk comes in. I think that everyone up to that point, bearing in mind that Punk comes in, 8th? So we've had 7 other guys in at this point, and in my notes, I haven't made a single one. For 7 guys to come in, and my first note is that Jacob Fatu no-sells a toolbox to the head and takes out Punk, which I thought was great. I thought it was a great way to build up Jacob Fatu. And I'm like, okay, we're now 7 guys. So you're 5, 10. You're about 20-odd minutes into this match now, and I've not made a single note because it's very boring. I just thought that nothing really happens until Punk, Roman, and Solo come in. The match is still sloppy as anything. Obviously, Bronson Reed breaks his toes coming off the top of the cage with a tsunami. Jacob Fatu botches that moonsault and lands badly on his knee. Looks like he's probably injured himself. The whole process that leads to Jimmy and Jay doing the 1D on Jacob Fatu is miscommunicated and it looks sloppy. We get a typical 5 finisher special on Solo Sikoa, which is kind of like the babyface thing to do. And then to top it all off, when they win, they stand there and do that cringy pose where you got 4 of them doing the acknowledgement and Punk doing this. And I was like, that's just, it looked cringy as anything, man. And I'm like, this, honestly, I didn't enjoy it, man. Like, I gave it, I gave the women's a 3. I gave this a 2 3/4 because there's still some remotely entertaining bits in it. But like, if I'm 20 minutes in and I haven't made a single note because nothing remotely interesting has happened, and this is a War Games match, nothing's happened. Do you know what I mean? I think the first person to bring in tables is Tongaloa, of all people. He's the 8th guy in, and like the way to stop the crowd booing him is he brings the tables in, and I was like, what is this, man? I just did not enjoy it at all.
That's fair. Yeah, Tonga got his pop, didn't he? Because let's be fair, he didn't want to get hassle coming to the ring. The fact he's even in the match, I guess, was like, let's get him at the table out. I gave this a 3.5. I actually enjoyed it more. I enjoyed the storytelling more. I like the fact that it didn't involve so much of the weapon. There was obviously weapons in it, but it wasn't as I don't know, lost as the women's match was, where they couldn't find what they were looking for. It felt like it was a bit more on point with the men, and he didn't kind of get too lost out of the didn't have to suspend your disbelief and get taken out of the match as much.
But they only bring in 5 chairs and 2 tables. Jacob Fatu brings in 5 chairs. Tongaloa brings in 2 tables. That's it. That's all they brought in.
That's all we need.
It's like, okay, all we needed. Yeah, exactly. It was fine. But it was like, dude, that's you're still 7 people in before we get a pop. Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, that to me, that's not great. If you've got 7 guys in that match before we hit the first pop, and it's not even for something wrestling related, someone gets a table out.
So let's talk about something quickly about War Games. Does the match need to evolve again? Has it got to a stage where all of a sudden the concept may be a bit outdated? Because we look back into the WCW era of it, there used to be a roof on top. You didn't used to be able to go to the top of these things and jump off of it. It was a case that, so now WWE took the roof off. They made it where it's like, you can free to jump off the top of it. Kind of made more excitement. If you escape it by climbing out of it, you forfeit and you get rid of it. So adds those little new tweaks and dynamics into it. And the fact is that it's a modern wrestling twist. They have more weapons involved because they didn't have that as much when it came to the old WCW days. However, the concept now, the match begins when everyone's entered War Games, is usually about 20 to 25 minutes into the match. And at that point, that's when the match is meant to start. So you're watching for 20 to 25 minutes of a wrestling match with essentially no stakes on the line, nothing going on. Should this be a match where it can end even from the get-go, one pinfall, and it can end from the start? Does that make it better, or does it make it better if it's a simple process of Survivor Series, a process of elimination that people can be eliminated all throughout the match? Or does it simply just need to be cut and we just get people in every 90 seconds and just get the match sort of 15 minutes, everyone's in, let's get on with it?
I mean, you could take a various amount of those options and apply them to this. Like the 90 seconds per entrance and elimination style. You add that to it, it makes it a lot more exciting. But the
Mm.
problem with the elimination aspect is you've got a two ring size cage. And if you start doing eliminations and you've got three guys in the ring, three guys in two cages is really like it's a lot of open space and not a lot of like selling. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't know. It's. I'm going to put it to you this way, right? I think the Iron Survivor challenge is a better match gimmick than War Games.
I agree.
I don't think War Games. I think War Games, if anything, War Games takes away from things like a steel cage match. I genuinely think it is ruining the aesthetic of cage matches because you can't climb, like you said, they've taken the roof off of it. Why? You can't climb out to win. All it's done is just giving people an excuse to jump off the top of it and break their feet. So, do you know what I mean? That doesn't make sense. And I just think it's generally ruining, like I said, normal cage matches. Like, they need to do something with what the first thing they definitely need to do is go back to 4 versus 4 because 5v5 is way too much. I think it's way too many people. It drags out the match for way too long and shorten the interval times. Like, these matches do not need to be an hour long. They just, like you said, cut it from, what is it? It's 5 minutes for the first two, and then it's 3 minutes, I think, everything after that. Like you said, do it for 2 minute intervals, like they do in the Rumble. Do you know what I mean? 2 minute intervals. Then by 10 minutes, you've got all 8 guys. Well, yeah, by 10 minutes, you've got all 8 guys in the ring, and you can just simply have a really good cage match. But there needs to be a change of it because I genuinely, when I was going into Deadline, my brain for some reason couldn't remember how the Iron Survivor Challenge worked, and I was genuinely not looking forward to watching Deadline. And then I watched it, and I was like, oh my god, this might actually be the best gimmick match outside of the Royal Rumble. And do you know what I mean? And that's saying something. But War Games is genuinely not good at the minute. You're muted, by the way.
Oops.
There we go.
It's my fault. But so yeah, literally, I was just going to say, like, the idea of War Games, does it fall into the category of, like, obviously, you know, everyone had Hell in a Cell, Extreme Rules every year, these pay-per-views named after a gimmick match, and now it's like, oh, it's that time of year again, we must get the teams together.
Yeah.
War Games, do you know what I mean? Does it fall into that category of where it can suffer, and it should be used sparingly when it fits, rather than having one have two? And maybe that's something that would have made this more special as well. Had we had one War Games match and one traditional Survivor Series match. Look, I'm a traditionalist. I want to see one of those brought back in, and I think it just would add some extra flavor into the Survivor Series for me.
Do you know what? I think the normal Survivor Series style match actually works better anyway. Because you can, like, I'm obviously going back off what we've seen before. Like, obviously, do you remember when Sting debuted? And it was like Sting comes out and, like, it's essentially Dolph Ziggler versus, like, whoever it was, Triple H and Kane and whatever. And it's like the numbers game is such a massive thing to play into a storyline when you're doing 3-on-2, 4-on-2, 5-on-1. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just such an exciting prospect because you want to see the babyface get to that point where he's like, the odds are stacked against him. He has to go through 5 guys. Will he do it? He beats 4 of them. Can he beat the last guy? Will he or won't he? It adds height and excitement to it. This is just, the War Games is just so meh. And like, I don't know. I'm pretty much in the same boat as you with this. I think it's coming to the same point where it's the same as Hell in a Cell, when it's like, oh wow, we expect it, so it's kind of, oh well, when we know what we're gonna get, there's nothing really to be excited about it.
It's interesting, isn't it? I agree with you. I agree 100%. It's been interesting to see where they go forward with it. Kai has asked, is this the worst Survivor Series in the last 10 years? No, 2015 and 2020 do exist for me. So those two, I think, would be worse than this one. There may be other ones that are, but...
without looking at a match card, I couldn't tell you. But it ain't no 2019, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, absolutely. So all in all, let's get your score out of 10 for Survivor Series. We usually do these things, don't we? We go through the quicks, but I'll get your score first out of 10.
Dude, I would go. I tell you what, I'll go through without you having to bring up the graphics or anything. I gave this show a 6. I think that there is one good match, and there are some good spots throughout the rest of the show, but I don't think it's particularly good. My match of the night is the IC Triple Threat. My OMG moment of the night was Nakamura winning, because I didn't think that was going to happen at all. He gets my entrance of the night as well, because obviously new music, new production, looks spooky as cool. And MVP was Io Sky, man.
I agree with all of them apart from entrance. I went with Tamatonga. It was Rhea Ripley, but until Tamatonga did that entrance into the cage like that, it was and just going around like almost like a spider on a web. I thought that was pretty badass. So yeah, I quite like that. But yeah, that's the review of Survivor Series. I agree with the 6 out of 10. By the way, I think that's a good shout indeed. Ray's giving it a 7 out of 10. So thanks for sharing with that one there. We have Big WWE Queen 20. Thanks for joining us. Hope you're keeping well. David asking us, what is your favorite all-time favorite Survivor Series match? That's one that's going to rack the brain. But a fantastic question there, David. I will say that. I will say, favorite Survivor Series match of all time. I will say the 2016 Raw versus SmackDown men's Survivor Series match. I can't name you every single person that was in it, but I know the match went for an hour long. We just got Raw versus SmackDown again. I know AJ Styles was on the SmackDown team. I think Shane McMahon ended up on that SmackDown team as well. But I think it was an absolute blinder, that one.
Is that the one with James Ellsworth and it's got Chris Jericho in it and stuff like that? Is that the one I'm thinking of?
Yeah, thankfully Ellsworth's on the floor though, but he's not actually in the match.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. No, I do. I'm just trying to remember what it was. I'm gonna go with my brain remembering this one. I'm just gonna go Adam Cole versus Pete Dunne from 2019 because it's a killer of a match, and the moment they turn that crowd is fantastic. But I'd have to do some proper studying into it because there's so many good matches out there, but my brain is like a sieve and I just do not retain information, unfortunately.
Absolutely. To be fair, I've gone with a Survivor Series match, but if you want an alternative, David, first ever Elimination Chamber match, Survivor Series 2002, best Survivor Series of all time, in my opinion. Obviously, Triple H, RVD, Booker T, Chris Jericho, Kane, and Shawn Michaels. And Shawn Michaels wore the brown tights and won the World Heavyweight Championship. Yeah. Good times, very good times. Bobby, good to have you in the house. Hope you are keeping well. Also, we got asked this question. We have sort of discussed it a little bit earlier on, so correct me if I'm wrong with these ones. When we say it from Sid, who would like to see get called off from NXT to the main roster in the transfer window? We discussed Ethan Page, Roxanne Perez, Cora Jade, and Trick Williams.
Yeah, I'm just quickly banging through the NXT roster quickly and just gonna see who's on there. I mean, dude, obviously, like, Tavion Heights is like my new favorite guy there. Obafemi, obviously, he's too soon for him. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it at the minute. There's no one else on that roster that I would say has definitely got a chance of moving up in the minute. Like, they're just too new and not established yet.
Absolutely. We got asked the question here: do we think that Cody Rhodes will win and defeat Kevin Owens at Saturday night's main event? A full predictions video will be coming out tomorrow on this one, so I thought it was a little bit cheating giving the entire thing away here. So I thought it's probably the bulk of the video, but I will say that what I think and what I want may be two different things, and I'm not sure which one I'm going to go with yet.
I'm not going to give you what I think is going to happen, but I will tell you what I want to happen. What I want is for Kevin Owens to win.
I want KO to win as well. I think it would be a lot more fun if KO was to. But Netflix starting in January and this transfer window kicking in. It's hard to bet against the champion.
The rights itself.
It's hard to bet against him, but I might, and I may also do a second video because I agree with the one. I don't think I just want it. I think Kevin Owens should win on Saturday. So there might be a video dedicated to that as well. So keep an eye out. The channel is going to be very Saturday Night's Main Event esque this week. So if you're into the idea of that show being this weekend, you're going to want to stick around on this channel this week because there will be some videos dropping and hopefully on a daily basis. I've got a bit of free time at the start of this week. So I'm promising to deliver you content for the week coming up. What PLE would you bring back? Says Sid. He'll bring back Great Balls of Fire. Funny you should mention that, Sid. We've got a video that's been recorded for a little while. The Yes or No series, we brought the first one out. We recorded the second one. The second one is what PLEs should make a return. Funnily enough, Great Balls of Fire is one of the names we discuss, a yes or a no. But off the top of your head, it doesn't have to be any of the ones that we talk about in the video, NXT. But if there's one that you think off the top of your head that maybe you would want to bring back, what would you bring back if you could?
I mean, dude, there's, like I said, to give away the video, there are so many good names that they could use that they don't use. I mean, I think at the minute, they use most of my favorite ones, like In Your House. There are a lot of NXT based ones. But if I was to give out a shout to one of them, I mean, Judgment Day is a pretty cool one. I mean, they already use Halloween Havoc. Do you know what I mean? So there's a plethora of names there. It's like there's too many good ones to choose from. Where you ultimately go, that should be the one, really. But there is, if you watch the video that's coming out, you'll get the best answer from me.
I'm actually planning on editing it this week as well. So hopefully by the end of the week, Sid, it'll be dropping as well. So I'm trying to make this week you have a lot of content coming this week because I feel it's been busy with work. I've not been able to deliver the same that I've wanted to. So hopefully we can make up for it for you this week. We're on the road to Christmas as well. So yeah, a few extra videos should be on the way coming to the Christmas collection. But to give one answer, and it's not on our list of ones we discussed on the video, I would say Fully Loaded. I used to love that pay-per-view back in the day, back in the late 90s. And 2000, underrated show. Really good fun one to watch if you haven't seen it. Bobby says, who would you guys like to see go against Fallon Henley for the NXT Women's North American Championship either later this year or at the start of next year?
Oh god, give me a second because I'm just currently bringing up the women's roster. I mean, Gigi Dolan, I think, is someone who is currently suffering from obviously injuries, but she's been around for so long that she needs an opportunity to go for that title. John Grace, if she ends up in NXT, she's definitely 200. But there's so many new people in there that you could easily use. Tatum Paxley, I think Tatum Paxley's been underused at this moment. A minute, she gets all these matches, but never actually picks up any wins. And Thea Hale, now that Chase U is over, I think Thea Hale is a massive one that really needs to start broadening herself and moving away from high school cheerleader.
Absolutely. So you mentioned Gigi Dolan. I think she's the next in line after she's made a return to NXT in recent weeks. So I think that is the next one. If I got to pick a person I wanted, Bobby, Jada Parker. I think that she's got all the tools to be a top star in the future. Only thing I'm not a fan of is the finishing move. I'd like her to change that. But rest of it, especially her mic work, is absolutely sensational.
No more NXT Underground matches as well, because they are equally they are generally the worst match on the WWE put out. I really don't enjoy them at all.
One thing was, it's just as deadlines come in conversation here quickly. Obviously, I've seen the match with the Underground match, but the presentation of Lola Vice in Underground matches in comparison to the other time we see her in WWE or in NXT, it's chalk and cheese. It's two different people. I love the presentation when she's doing these Underground matches because she looks like a badass. You can see the MMA fighter, which you don't see half of the time with her. So I quite like that presentation we have of her there.
Yeah, I get that. But the problem I have is yes, they need to transition to that what she normally does. It's just a match for me because no ropes, essentially no turnbuckles. You need two technically good mat-based wrestlers, or like you said, fighting like UFC style transitioned wrestlers that are good at putting on a match where they don't need to use the ring to their ability. Otherwise, this match suffers and it sucks, and it's like I don't like these matches. Oh, I think the fans around the outside who queued up to be there, it's all crap, man. Like, it just honestly, just make it a lumberjack match. I don't just do that. You don't. Why don't sell this facade that they're fans when they're actually just like NXT developmental talent, or do you know what I mean? Indie wrestlers that have just been brought in to do it. It's just such crap, man. I honestly don't like it. I didn't like Underground when Shane McMahon brought it in.
Yeah, I did a very. It was a controversial video at the time, and I was like, they need to get rid of that ASAP. And it didn't get a lot of favourable response at the time, funnily enough. But yeah, it didn't stick around much longer after the video came out. Thankfully, I wasn't a fan of it either back in the day. Kai would like to see Rebellion and Insurrection return.
Oh,
Obviously,
Rebellion's a good shout.
Rebellion, of course, now used for TNA at the moment. Although we'll have to see if that will remain next year because Hard to Kill has been moved off their calendar for Genesis. I'm hoping Lockdown comes back as well, but that's just the TNA fan in me. Another question's coming. You'll have to take this one because I've not seen SmackDown yet. Why did Kevin Owens call Cody Rhodes a hypocrite when he was being interviewed with Michael Cole in Kevin Owens' rental car parked outside of the parking lot on SmackDown?
I do, trust me. It's a great. Kevin Owens is outside the building. Michael Cole has to leave commentary, walk outside the building, and they do an interview inside the rental car. It's fantastic. Like, the production is so good. Cody Rhodes, yeah, dude, man. Kevin Owens just basically it's the same story he's been telling for weeks. It's just he is a hypocrite. He sits and turns around and says the same things like, "Oh yeah, like the bloodline need to be stopped," and then like 3 months later, he's like, "Oh, I'll team with you, Roman. Like, we're best pals now," and it's like. Just Cody seeing the best in people, whereas Kevin's like, these people have bullied me for 4 years, and now you're best friends with them. It's watch it, man. I can't really. I don't obviously remember the top of my head word for word verbatim what it was said, but it's just a really good promo, and the way it's produced is just fantastic.
I think you summed up pretty darn well, to be fair. A lot of fanfare online wants to see a stable with Kevin Owens, Drew McIntyre, and Seth Rollins, 3 people that hate the bloodline and seemingly hate CM Punk as well in the same breath. Could you see a super faction like that being put together, or is that just too much fan fiction?
Why does Kevin Owens hate CM Punk? Oh, I suppose he's just teamed with the bloodline in Survivor Series, so that would be why.
Yeah, that would be a storyline reason, yeah.
Yeah, but then Punk didn't do it to the team with the bloodline. He did it for Paul Heyman, and that's 2 different things. And like, does Kevin Owens hate Paul Heyman? I don't know. That one's the one that kind of doesn't work for me. I mean, that's a really powerful faction, to be fair. Putting those 3 together, it almost feels like 2 of them will suffer, or it will just implode in some fantastic ball of fire where we get a triple threat between the 3 of them. So it could be really good, it could be really bad, but it obviously all just depends on booking and how they do it.
Wouldn't be like Great Balls of Fire by any chance, would it?
Oh, God. It's a terrible name. I don't know why it's trying to get this name over as it being the best premium live event name ever. It's horrible.
I wasn't a fan of it, but actually the show was pretty good, so I didn't mind it. But I think that faction would be really good. It feels a very, very Netflix style faction, if you ask me. If they were to put that together, maybe it needs a transfer window to make it happen.
Put Gallus in with Drew McIntyre. Give me a Scottish-based faction because Gallus needs something because they are doing nothing on NXT at the minute. There's a team that need moving from NXT.
Yeah, they've been lost in the shuffle on NXT for a long time. They'd actually have a better chance being on the main roster. So I totally agree.
Even in NXT UK, I think they were maybe tag team champions in UK once. Otherwise, they have achieved nothing.
Absolutely. Sid says, what match would you like to bring back? You would like to see the Tower of Doom match brought back. I don't remember the Tower of Doom match personally, but if I could pick one, I was going to joke and say the scaffold match. That would go back to the 80s. For anyone who's not seen those, it's like scaffolding, like 15, 20 feet above the ring, and then people get like thrown off of it. It's pretty much how the match ends. Jim Cornette actually broke his leg with that back in 84. But to give a serious answer, I'm going to say the Boiler Room Brawl. Not seen one of those for far too long. They used to be fun back in the Attitude Era.
Shout. As a comedy answer, I'm going to say Zombie Lumberjack match because I loved it the last time they did it, and they've never done one since, and I'm very disappointed with it. As a serious answer, I mean, dude, I don't know. Really, like, I think the Boiler Room Brawl is probably the best answer you've got there. Like, the fond memories of Mankind versus Rock in a Boiler Room Brawl is just ingrained in my brain. It's such a good answer.
Absolutely. And also, I will mention SummerSlam 96 versus The Undertaker as well, where Paul Bear turns on The Undertaker. So it's a classic. It's a classic. Bobby would like to see Gigi Dolan challenge for the NXT Women's Championship. Like to see Sol Ruka win the NXT Women's North American Championship from Fallon Henley. Certainly is a possibility that could be something that could happen in the future.
They're doing. I tell you what, they're doing at NXT are doing really well at the minute is that they're throwing like the most left wing wrestler into matches, like the Iron Survivors Challenge match. They've got like Stephanie Vakor, Zarya, Sol Ruka, Julia, and then they throw in Ren Sinclair. And like they're doing this really good thing where they're throwing in these random people and they're delivering and they're building them up in the most unique way. And like props to NXT because they're getting their women's division over subtly, but it works, man.
I'm a big fan of Ren Sinclair. I think she's doing really it's like underrated. If you blink, you can miss it and it goes under the radar. I think she's doing really good work down NXT. I'm actually really excited to see the Iron Survivor Challenge.
Trust me, delivers, mate. I actually did. I did rate it. I rated it better than the men's one.
I wouldn't be surprised with that because I didn't rate the men's one as highly as I've done in previous years, even though I do think it was pretty well done together.
I thought it was good, dude. I thought it was fantastic.
I thought it was good, but I didn't have it as good as the other 2 years. And to be fair, the other 2 years set a very high bar. It's a very high bar the previous year. I mean, Trick Williams getting 4 falls in about 90 seconds in last year's one, I think it's already hard to ever top that, I feel.
Oba picking up 2 pinfalls in one moment to win the match is fantastic.
It was fantastic. I think my problem was when I watched it, I was like, as soon as Oba came through the curtain, I'm like, he's winning. Like, I knew he was winning. So it kind of didn't. I knew it was coming. It didn't feel the same as last year. It got to a point where I was like, Trick was always winning last year, but it got to a point where it was like, how is he going to win? He's like 4 falls down. There's like 90 seconds left. And obviously you're just like, there's 1, there's 2. And then you genuinely went, oh my God, he's got the 4th one. Like, even if you knew it was going to come in some way, I don't know. There was just a way that it became a monster pop for me up the end of it. I don't know. I really, really enjoyed it, but it was still really good.
As soon as I hear Oba's music, man, I pop hard, man, and I'm just like, I mean, the music gets me. His presentation, my God, Def Rebel actually pulled a banger out with his music because dude, when he gets a spot in the Rumble, I'm telling you, crowd's gonna go wild for it. It's gonna be immense.
It will be fantastic. Look, I love Obafemi. I think he's probably my favorite in NXT right now because he's on another level. And literally, he is going to be like, if he's the top for NXT in 4 or 5 years, he's going to be on the top of Raw, SmackDown. One of them, he's going to have the title. He's that good, in my opinion. But I was going to go somewhere with this, and I don't. Yeah, the other thing from that match that I really enjoyed was, I mean, Ethan Page's character work for starters, and getting beaten up in the cage, and just the kid's sign of all ego sucks while he's standing in the cage, completely out of it. Brilliant moment, just fantastic.
He is like. As much as I love him in NXT, he's too good for NXT. If you look at a guy that's come in and that is ready for main roster, it is Ethan Page, man. Like he's gone the Kevin Owens route, and he's been there 6 months, and he's already should be being called up to the main roster.
He's proved that he's been overlooked for far too long, and it's so pleasing to see. Been a fan of his work for like at least about 5 or 6 years, and it's just so good to see that he's finally getting the recognition he deserves. Like, he was just AEW. I was so happy when he went there. I just felt they completely wasted and dropped the ball with him. And here you can just see they know what they're doing with this guy instantly. And yeah, I'm going to call it. His first feud on the main roster will be CM Punk, and I'm looking forward to it. I'll be around probably. I would even call it for Saturday night's main event in January if that is meant to be happening, which I keep hearing it's meant to be happening for the next 2 months. So yeah, I'm going to go for that one in January.
Yeah. Dude, I hope so, man. Like, I really want to see him on the main roster. I want him to see him become, dude. Ethan Page as IC champion. I can just see it already, man. I just cannot wait for him, man. I hope he gets it.
Absolutely. Question: Who do you guys think should go into retirement next in WWE? John Cena. Yeah, it should be someone's choice. I don't wish people to retire if I don't have to. I don't think that
If you was to ask me who I think is next in line to retire, it's probably like Rey Mysterio or Randy Orton.
That was a fair reflect. I mean, you can see with Ray, especially when he feels ready to give the mask to his son. I think that'll happen one day.
Oh, passing of the torch. I like it.
Just see Dom burn it instead of wearing it would be even better. Noob says, which wrestler do you want to see come back for the Royal Rumble next year? Love the Charlotte Flair, would be a good move, but Oscar will definitely pop the crowd in the abyss based on her recent post. You said Jordan Grace earlier on, so I'm going to say Joe Hendry.
I'm going to say Alexa Bliss.
There you go, as a pop. I've even popped just sitting here. That would be brilliant.
Yeah, see, it's been far too long. We need the original Alexa Bliss back, the one that absolutely dominated the women's division when she came up from NXT.
Yeah, I miss the goddess. That's a fantastic shout. Bobby says that Renzi is a future. There we go. Sorry, Bobby. Got you the comment there. Future singles champion in WWE. Kai wants to see Brian Panty's matches return.
Oh, God.
Fair enough, Kai. Sorry?
Only if it's the men doing it. That'll put them off it for life.
Ren Sinclair went for a tag team champion NWA to main event at WP Elite. There you go. Amazing stuff indeed. Yeah, she's definitely come a long way. Who should Cody Rhodes face at WrestleMania 41 in Vegas? Well, it's 2 months on since our WrestleMania predicted, so I think we can see if you feel the same or have changed your tune.
I mean, I don't know. By the looks of it, Rock is getting less and less likely, so I don't actually know. Steve. But I don't really want to say Roman Reigns, but if The Rock's not doing it, triple, I don't know, 4 corners, just do Randy, Roman, and Kevin versus Cody Rhodes. Like, do a 4-way.
That's fun. I like that. I mean, adding Roman into that as well is quite cool. I like the idea. If it's not Rock, I mean, who should? I think it's The Rock. That's the match that I think is the biggest they can do for Las Vegas as well. But I mean, KO and Randy, the triple threat match, I think would be quite fun, which is something you suggested in your video, and I'm starting to want to see that more and more. But hey, they could do Cody versus Punk. They could do Cody versus Cena. There's some options though on the table there if they want to. There's some big names in WWE for Vegas.
Is Cody versus Cena on par with Rock Hogan?
I think it could be.
Oh, there's food for thought.
Imagine, I'm going to throw a scenario out right now. Cody Rhodes is, at this point, if he keeps the title to WrestleMania, would have been the champion a full year. He would be on a Cena-like run. Cody wins LOL. Everyone booed John Cena back in the day for this exact same thing. Yet everybody is loving John Cena because he's returning. He's going to retire. It's a last chance to say thank you. Is there a possibility, should there be a Cody Rhodes versus John Cena match at WrestleMania, you could get an exact repeat of Rock versus Hogan where the fans turn on Cody and they want Cena to win the title, especially as it's world title number 17?
That's actually, like, I'm kind of wanting that more and more now that we've talked about it, and I'm like, it is on that level, isn't it? And you could get that same moment where they stand face to face, and they look at each other, and then they both look right, and then they both look left, and the crowd are just eating it up. It would be immense, as long as they don't do it a second time, like Rock and Cena. I think it would be fine. But yeah, man, that could actually be amazing. Because the crowd will want Cena to win that.
Absolutely. And the thing is, Cena could actually really go in on Cody if he wanted to, because, Cena's a menace on the mic. I was the face of the company for like over a decade, but I kept true to myself. I was in my shorts, I was in my t-shirt and my cap.
I didn't have to leave. I didn't have to start a whole new company to get myself over.
I didn't have to be a politician and wear a suit every week and tell people what they want to hear. Exactly. That's what I want to talk about.
It writes itself.
It so writes itself. Kind of want Cody versus
Cody versus Cena there as well.
Who should be in the Hall of Fame in 2025?
Bam Bam Bigelow.
Yes,
because he hasn't gone in. He's an obvious one. And I am going to say Batista's too obvious, but I was going to say Bam Bam and the Repo Man.
Love Repo Man. I love Repo Man, so I'm down for that. If we're going to do it to Tatanka, I think Tatanka might already be in it today. I think he might already be in. But no, serious one.
Well.
Vader, I want Vader in the Hall of Fame. I loved his work back in the day. Another versatile big man. Lex Luger's not gone in. I think he could be a shout.
Yeah, it's not a bad shout.
You know, Lex Express and all that stuff. But Vegas, it's Vegas. They're going to have a big name in there for the headline act. So Batista could be that shout. Maybe the
John
Rock.
Cena, even if it's fine of year.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't be surprised to see Cena headline the Hall of Fame because they have him under the banner for some dates that year. It does feel like it's probably the right year to put Cena in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, could be. And obviously in Vegas as well. It could be the right time.
Absolutely. We were discussing it. We want to see it. Rhodes versus Cena. And David says Cody versus Goldberg, WrestleMania 41. Gunther versus Goldberg, I think, could certainly have its possibility as well. Quick question for you was when we're talking about WrestleMania. CM Punk, is the destination now after Survivor Series Roman Reigns, or the storylines kicked off properly? Is it Seth Rollins after Raw this past week?
I think the problem is that with Bronson Reed now having a broken foot, that's really put a kink in the plans. And Seth Rollins ultimately probably has to be the end goal, but the promo he cut where he turns around and says, "You have nothing I want," you're kind of like I'm expecting Seth to get that title back off of Gunther, and that'd be the match for WrestleMania, and that is ultimately for me the long-term plan for WrestleMania. But the whole Paul Heyman favor thing is really interesting because unless it's like a match with Roman, like, would they really do Punk versus Roman at WrestleMania? Like, I don't see the point of it if there's nothing on the line. I don't know. It's a really weird one to say, but I think, like I said, with Bronson and Reed breaking his foot, I just think it's throwing a kink in the spanners and now having to kind of rework it. Tonight is going to be a very important night for possibly in terms of that storyline and how it's going to progress through to Saturday night's main event, even into Rumble.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree with you, by the way. I think Seth will probably... It'd be like a Shawn versus Taker for WrestleMania 26. Shawn doing whatever it takes to get the match with Taker. I can see that Rollins is going to try and get himself a world title, fail miserably, maybe the first attempt, then try and win the Royal Rumble, completely fail again. I'm going to need to sneeze in a minute. Apologies. And obviously... That's why my face looks that weird, but yeah, weirder than normal. Yeah, obviously, and I think eventually he'll get the job done in the chamber. I think something like that is where he'll get the title, and then we can push on for Rollins versus CM Punk, and it can actually main event a night of WrestleMania because a title is on the line.
Yeah, I mean, I really want I really don't want the Rumble to be predictable as well. So. But, like, at the minute, the way it's kind of looking is you're going to get someone like Punk win it. He's going to challenge Gunther, and Seth's probably going to pick up that title at Chamber. And it's going to end up being those two at Mania. I just don't want it to be that predictable. I want them to be really creative and unique about it. So hopefully, fingers crossed, they do something really good and it works out that way. But, yeah, I like your idea of Shawn wanting to fight Taker, that whole idea, because that's exactly how it's kind of booked at the minute. He's like, I want to fight you. And he's like, but you have nothing I want. Why would I want to fight you? So 6 months ago, you did have. I think it's a great way to book it.
And it also keeps it dragging out for another 4 to 6 months further down the line as well. It kicks the can down the road, which is brilliant. So, yeah, power to that. And I'll do these couple of questions, and then we'll do one final talking point before we wrap up the video here today. So 2 more questions we have. David wants to see Goldberg, who's next, and see him have a match. Surely it's going to be Goldberg versus Gunther after Bad Blood earlier this year. That will be Goldberg's retirement match. Is that a WrestleMania or is that somewhere else?
I think if Goldberg's going to have a retirement match, it's going to be at WrestleMania. And if you want Gunther to do something at Mania without being involved in the world title, that's the safest bet.
Absolutely. And to answer Sid's questions, does anyone want to see it? I don't mind seeing Goldberg have one more match. I want to see Goldberg in an interview. Sorry?
As long as he loses.
Yeah, first off, as long as he loses, and secondly, he claims that in his second run that he was injured for most of the time, therefore he couldn't give his best performance. So I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. And if he's going to come back for one more match, I want to see if he can give me the electricity he gave us back in the 90s one last time.
Ooh.
He won't be able to deliver the same way he did in the 90s, but if he can improve what he did on 4 or 5 years ago, I'd be a happy camper. I wouldn't mind seeing one more match, especially like I said, if it's booked right. And against Gunther to beat Goldberg and retire him, that's a big deal. That's a big notch on a Gunther belt.
I want to see him have his shredded meat chest after Gunther's chopped the life out of him at WrestleMania.
I want him to say that I ain't going back. Gunther's chopped the hell out of me. Do you think Daniel Bryan will have any chance to continue fighting in AEW? Yeah, I think he will make returns. Yeah, it's all on his terms. Full-time wrestling career finished. It's when it's on his terms, and I think that he'll pick and choose when the right time is for him to make that return.
Yeah,
Ooh.
the only thing I think with Daniel Bryan is at some point he probably will get a Legends contract with WWE, and he probably will. Well, he will be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
I look forward to that day when it does happen. Same with Chris Jericho. I'd like Jericho to finish off at a WrestleMania. That's what I would like to see. Final talking point of the video will take about 5 minutes or so. So thanks everyone for your questions and comments. But we want to talk about the New Day. Does it rock anymore? Look, let's be fair. We thought that they were going to break up. They teased it so well over a number of weeks, and then it came to the segment on Raw, which, let's be fair, the presentation of all that was absolutely brilliant, with all the pictures hanging up and everything, the crown, all those magical moments that they had. And then Kofi and Wood said that we've talked, and what we're going to tell you, and just so you know, to the crowd, it's not you. I thought I was watching I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, by the way. It's not you.
Y'all want to go big?
Yeah, and we got Big E come out. Big E sort of didn't want to see them break up because that's where he thought this was going. He said that he's going to be around, he's going to be there, he's going to be their manager, and pretty much Woods and Kofi turned and said, well, why now? Where have you been? You know, you could have been with us. You've gone and done your new job. You know, you've gone behind your desk and gone and done that instead. You've gone and been with your girlfriend when you could have been with us. That's brutal. Saying you pick the female over your best friends. That's something that hurts in the man department usually. Also as well, they got to that magic moment where they mentioned, I broke my neck, and Kofi went, yeah, you broke your neck. So what? And what? Other people broke their neck and came back. A couple of bad examples. Edge took 9 years. Biggie's not been gone that long, but Stone Cold was certainly one of them that was mentioned. And obviously, Woods said he got injured and he came back and he was there for the New Day. And I just liked the presentation, the way it was done, because the idea was that Kofi and Woods have continued doing things the New Day way for longer than what they wanted to, because they wanted the spot open for Big E. They wanted Biggie to return. But Woods said, look, deep down, we know that you want to return, but doctors ain't going to clear you. You're never going to return. Which gives me hope that he might be cleared and he might going to be returning soon. Biggie versus Woods and Kofi at Mania, anybody? I'd be down for it. This was fantastic. Really enjoyed this segment on Raw. Would love to know your thoughts.
I'm going to steal a line from CM Punk here. Tell me when I'm lying. Kofi and Woods were 100% on the mark. Why hasn't he been there for the last 4 years? He can stand by ringside, can't he? He can catch a flight, can't he? No reason why he can't just go with him, you know? He's been off doing his little adventures. He's been off making a cartoon show or whatever he was doing. He's been, you know what I mean, on the kickoff shows he's been there every month. He's been on the premium live events every month on the kickoff show. Tell me when I'm lying. Tell me when Woods and Kofi were lying about everything they said. Dude, this was fantastic. This is up there with Seth Rollins' chair shot. This is up there with Mark Henry fake retirement. This was fantastic TV. This was fantastic cinema. This was like obviously it was too obvious to just be Woods turning heel on Kofi. And obviously the week before, when they just started laying into each other and started saying like, you're crap, you've never won a singles championship, blah blah blah. This was so well scripted, so well constructed. whoever put this together deserves a TV award for best produced segment because it was fantastic. It'll go down as one of the best heel turns in WWE history because it was expected, but it was a case of I don't think anyone was expecting Kofi Kingston to turn heel. Kofi Kingston, Kofi Mania, former WWE champion, and he just absolutely goes, no, Biggie, we don't need you no more. Oh, it was beautiful.
Yeah, we'll call you when we need you. Yeah, it was good stuff. Kofi got mad. No, it was brilliant. I really enjoyed it. I do think because there was apparently the original plan was they were going to side with Odyssey Jones over Big E, and I think that this turned out much better than what that would have ever been. So I'm pleased that we didn't have to go down that avenue. This was much better. I'm still not convinced that Kofi and Woods will stay together long term because obviously they've said that it's not working what we're doing. We kept this open for E. It's not working out. We need to change it. So we're the one that's pushing E to the side, and it's our way moving forward. I still think they're not going to get the job done. Then they eventually will later on down the line turn on each other. If we really do get a Big E clearance and he can come back to the ring, there's that possibility of the New Day triple threat match at WrestleMania next year. And I'm not going to lie, I'd be all here for it.
As well, that Big E would coming in as the big baby face in that would push him onto main. It would reinstate him as main event level baby face if he can't. Obviously, he would come out on top of that as the baby face in the scenario. It's just going to be interesting to see what they do with New Day going because it's been a really long time since we've seen them as a heel tag team, and I have all the faith in the world. Like, look, Woods got them over before with the heel stuff. They'll do it exactly the same again. You just need to maybe splice in a USA title run and IC title run with one of them. Do you know what I mean? Make sure that they can deliver on singles competitions as well as tag team efforts because I think that's one of the key things they made about this point of the story was that Woods can't deliver as a singles title, so he needs a singles title run somewhere between now and the next 12 months and between Mania 42 if the goal is to do that New Day triple threat. But yeah, like I said, it's gonna be great. They're gonna be entertaining. They've done it all before, and like you said, hopefully it leads to a Big E comeback and putting Big E back in the ring and being top baby face again. It'll be good. Then dude, I saw it today and I completely forgot about this. If they bring him back to do the 5 counts again, because that was such a unique thing he was doing in NXT. Bring him back, get him doing the 5 count again, make him unique in that way again, make him special like how he used to be in NXT.
I'd love to see it. I'd love to see Big E come back and have that big push. First premium live event I ever went to, live in attendance, Big E was the champion. Was Survivor Series 2021. I'd love to see him back in that position again. I didn't think he got as good a run as he could have had with that title. I don't think the plans were there more than just the Popper winning it. So I'd like to see him have I'd like to see him have a proper run with that title if he could ever return. Of course, him being healthy is the most important thing, and seeing the fact that he could even just come and grace our screens, stand in the ring, and be able to walk after what he went through is amazing. So, but if he can come back, and obviously they've teased it by saying you'll never be cleared. You know how WWE works. I don't know. There's a glimmer of hope there. We can always hope. We're allowed to dare to dream. Maybe Big E's brought in the transfer window. Who knows? But hey, that's a good way to segue to the end of the show. But it's your turn to get involved in the comments section. Who do you want to see transferred from Raw to SmackDown to NXT in the upcoming transfer window? Let us know now in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, hit the like button, share with a friend, and subscribe as well. Big thanks to everyone for your comments and questions as well throughout the video. We really do appreciate them. A big thank you to the man next to me, Mr. NX Steve, in the house, in a hot seat, as always, delivering fantastic content, as always, giving great views and opinions on all things professional wrestling. And as well as that, this week, myself and NXT will be returning for Saturday night's main event. We're going retro. We're going to go and also give our predictions as well. So a couple of videos to look forward to with that. I'm really down for the idea of a KO video for you. I think he should win the championship at Saturday night's main events. Keep an eye out for that as well. So look out for those videos dropping later this week, and hopefully the PLE one will come late in the week as well. But that's all from us. Thanks for watching. Look after yourselves and each other. There's more videos you can check out on this channel right now. Just go and have a search through. There's loads of things for you. Lots of topical stuff as well as some retro stuff as well. We'll see you for the next video. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day.